Have you ever stopped to think that maybe, just maybe, you're already kind of rich? Not billionaire-rich, not yacht-on-a-Wednesday rich, but the kind of rich that doesn't show up in luxury purchases or brand names. The kind of rich that creeps in slowly when you realize you're no longer panicking about every unexpected bill, or when you can grab a coffee without checking your bank app first. And to be honest, it took me a long time to even notice that shift. For years, I was so busy trying to look successful that I didn't stop to ask if I was already building a version of wealth, one that didn't need to be flashy to be real. I used to think being rich meant hitting a certain income. I thought there'd be a moment when everything would change, like I'd walk into a room and suddenly feel like a different person. But when that moment never showed up, I started paying attention to something else entirely. How I felt, how much control I had, how peaceful my life had become in ways I hadn't expected. And that's when it clicked. Wealth isn't always what you see. In fact, the people who are truly getting rich are often doing it quietly, slowly, without the need to talk about it, without the need to look the part. So if you've ever wondered whether you're actually doing better than you think, here's a gentle reminder. You probably are. Let me explain why. For starters, if you're no longer scared of minor expenses, like grabbing lunch with a friend or replacing something that broke, you're already ahead of where you used to be. I remember a time when a $15 dinner felt like a risky move. I'd calculate everything in my head, mentally subtracting it from rent, from bills, from the next grocery trip. It wasn't just about budgeting, it was survival. But now, I still budget, sure. But there's breathing room. I can enjoy small things without guilt, and that's a big deal. Because when you start spending money without anxiety, on simple, everyday things, you've crossed an invisible threshold. You've built a little cushion, a little safety, a little trust in yourself. And trust me, that's one of the first signs that your relationship with money is changing. You're not rich yet, but you're not scraping by either. And that space in between, that's where wealth starts to grow. It's not just about having more money, it's about feeling less fear. That shift allows you to make decisions from a place of confidence rather than desperation. You start to see opportunities instead of obstacles, and that mindset opens doors to even greater financial stability. Another sign? You don't feel the need to prove anything anymore. When I was broke, I wanted people to think I wasn't. I'd buy clothes I couldn't afford, upgrade my phone for no reason, and eat at restaurants that made me nervous when the bill came. I wasn't doing it to impress strangers. I was doing it to convince myself that I was okay, that I was on track. But at some point, I stopped caring. And not in a cynical way. I just realized that financial peace doesn't come from external approval. It comes from internal security. From knowing that even if your shoes are 2 years old and your car isn't worth photographing, your bank account is growing, your debt is shrinking, your life is stable, and if you've gotten to the point where you no longer need to flex for people who aren't even paying attention, congratulations. You've matured financially in a way most people never will. This maturity shows up in small but powerful ways. You prioritize long-term goals over short-term appearances, you value experiences over status symbols, and you find joy in simplicity. That's not just financial growth, it's personal growth. And it's a sign you're building a life that's rich in authenticity. Here's another one. You've stopped thinking of wealth as just a number. We're sold this idea that once we hit a certain income, we'll feel different. We'll feel successful, fulfilled, free. But the truth is, income is only one piece of the puzzle. I know people who make 6 figures and are stressed out of their minds. I also know people who make half that, live simply, and feel completely at ease. Why? Because they've learned that real wealth is about lifestyle design. It's about how much control you have over your time, how many decisions you make because you want to, not because you have to. So if your days are getting quieter, if you're working fewer hours, stressing less, saying no more often, and designing your life around your values, that's wealth. It might not show up in your net worth spreadsheet, but it shows up in your face, in your energy, in your ability to sleep well at night. This kind of wealth is about freedom. Freedom to choose how you spend your days, who you spend them with, and what you prioritize. It's about aligning your life with what truly matters to you, whether that's family, creativity, or simply having time to breathe. That brings me to something personal. One of the biggest changes I noticed when I started becoming richer, even without realizing it, was the way I slept. When I was broke, I didn't sleep. I worried about everything, about overdrafts, about job security, about what would happen if I got sick or my car broke down or rent went up. It wasn't just money, it was the constant stress of uncertainty. But when you start stacking little wins, paying off a debt here, building a small emergency fund there, something shifts. The background anxiety quiets down. You're no longer living in reaction mode. You can plan, you can prepare, you can breathe. If you've been sleeping better lately, or if you feel less rattled by unexpected costs, that's not just a mood boost. It's a sign that your financial foundation is solidifying. And that kind of peace, it's one of the purest forms of wealth I've ever experienced. It's not just about having enough money to cover emergencies, it's about knowing you're prepared for them. That knowledge reduces the mental load, freeing up energy for creativity, relationships, and personal growth. It's a ripple effect that touches every part of your life. Now let's talk about generosity. A weird thing happens when you start doing better with money. You stop clenching it so tightly. I remember tipping $1 on a coffee and feeling nervous about it. Not because I didn't want to be generous, but because I was operating from a place of scarcity. Every dollar felt like a battle. But these days, I don't mind rounding up the tip or helping someone out. I don't even have to think about it. It just happens. And I realized that when you can give without flinching, not out of obligation, but because you can, that's a quiet kind of richness. It's not about how much you give. It's about how it feels. If giving doesn't feel like a sacrifice anymore, you've stepped into a new financial chapter. One where you're no longer just trying to survive, you're starting to overflow. This generosity extends beyond money. You might find yourself sharing your time, knowledge, or resources more freely, not because you have to, but because you want to. That's a sign of abundance, and it's a powerful indicator that your wealth, both financial and emotional, is growing. And maybe the most underrated sign of all, you've stopped needing external motivation to manage your money. In the beginning, I needed podcasts, books, YouTube videos, you name it. I was clinging to inspiration just to stay afloat. But over time, I developed habits that stuck. Not because someone told me to, but because I started seeing the results. Saving became normal. Saying no got easier. Planning felt good. And suddenly, I didn't need motivation anymore. I had momentum. If you're there, or even halfway there, that's huge. You've rewired your behavior. You've internalized the discipline. And that puts you in a totally different category from someone who's just getting started. This momentum is what separates those who stay stuck from those who keep growing. It's not about willpower, it's about systems. You've built routines that work for you, whether it's automating savings, tracking expenses, or investing consistently. These habits compound over time, turning small actions into significant wealth. Let's dive a bit deeper into what this all means. Wealth, at its core, is about options. The more financial stability you have, the more choices you have. You can take a job you love, even if it pays less because you're not chained to a paycheck. You can take a vacation without worrying about the credit card bill. You can invest in your health, your education, or your passions without sacrificing your future. These options don't require millions. They require a foundation of security, and that's what you're building every time you make a smart financial choice. Another aspect we often overlook is the emotional wealth that comes with financial progress. When you're not constantly stressed about money, you have more mental space for the things that matter. You can focus on your relationships, your hobbies, or your personal growth. You can be present in the moment instead of worrying about the next bill. This emotional clarity is a form of wealth that's hard to quantify but impossible to ignore. It's the difference between living in survival mode and living with intention. And here's something else to consider. The wealth you're building isn't just for you. It's for the people you care about. When you're financially stable, you can support your family, help a friend in need, or contribute to your community. You can create memories, whether it's a family vacation, a thoughtful gift, or a shared meal, without the shadow of financial stress. This ability to enhance the lives of those around you is a profound form of richness, one that multiplies the impact of your financial progress. So here's the real takeaway. If you're living a calmer, cleaner, more controlled life, you might already be rich. Not rich in the traditional, flashy sense, but rich in ways that matter more. You're richer if you own your time. You're richer if you can say no without guilt. You're richer if your bills are covered and your mind is clear. You're richer if you spend with intention, not to escape. You're richer if you're not defined by what you wear, drive, or post. You're richer if your peace is no longer negotiable. Because wealth isn't a trophy, it's a tool. It's not loud, it's subtle, and sometimes it takes someone else to point it out before you realize how far you've actually come. So, if this video made you reflect, if it made you smile at the little wins you've collected without fanfare, then I hope you walk away with one thought: you're doing better than you think. Maybe the world hasn't caught on yet, maybe no one notices, but that's okay, because this kind of wealth isn't meant to be seen, it's meant to be lived. If this video helped you realize you're quietly on the right path, hit that subscribe button.